I think we had like 600 eggs in all. You got to sell the eggs. You're not making any money. And so I was giving eggs away. If a neighbor walked by, hey, eggs,
Yeah.
So again, you gotta have sales. These guys all thought I was a drug dealer at the Wells Fargo. Because here's this kid, he's like 14 years old, wads of cash at like Tuesday morning on 11 a.m. on a school day. They'd be like, who is this kid? So they flagged me. So I get flagged and audited by IRS at like 16. And so I always tell folks the same sorts of benefits and societal change to the economy are coming with AI, but we don't know what they're going to look like yet. So just pause, don't destroy it at its infancy, and let's see where it ends up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Capital Spotlight. Today, we're here with Caleb Max, President and CEO of the National Artificial Intelligence Association. So, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us, first off, let's just get started. What is your association?
Yeah. So the National AI Association, we launched it in January of 2025. It was a brainchild of me and a couple of my colleagues, in particular one who's in venture capital, who invests in a lot of early stage artificial intelligence companies, under 5-person startups that are building all sorts of products and tools and services for a wide range of industries. And there's a big concern among startup companies. What is the regulatory landscape going to look like as I try to grow my business? And so at the time, we were kicking around, well, maybe we can do something to help represent these companies from a lobby standpoint or otherwise. And it struck us that there should be an association for AI.
Sure.
It is a industry in and of itself, even though it cross-cuts a lot of other types of work.
Yeah.
And so we launched it in January last year. I always say I was curious how many people would join. We've gotten hundreds and hundreds of startups.
Wow.
We have some big companies like Oracle, Huntington Ingalls, who you've heard of, Quantinuum, a large quantum company spun off of Honeywell. Capital One is one of our biggest members. I was just at a Capital One cafe, which I enjoy anyways, even if they weren't a member. But and they're very concerned about AI and financial services space. So, like I said, it's a very wide base of companies, and we're just very blessed for the growth.
Nice, man. What was it like starting a trade association, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've had the pleasure and the displeasure of starting a business, but like, what's it like on the trade side?
Well, like I said, it's one of the things that's tough. Usually when you're lobbying for a client, you would set down pretty clear priorities, what they're trying to do. You find the target members, target committees, target champions for a bill. With an association, especially one that in some sense functions more like a coalition, we have such a wide range of industries. The people's takes on, or company takes on artificial intelligence law and regulation can vary. I mean, we have government contractors, financial services, software as a service, legal field, ag, self-driving cars. Yeah. AI is just so cross-cutting. Yeah. And so I think the biggest challenge for me, and it still is a challenge, is making sure that we are taking all of the things that our members are looking to accomplish in Washington and building that into coherent strategy and policy. The second thing is I'm a lobbyist. I grew up on Capitol Hill. I know how Washington works. I am certainly not a tech person. I've now become a very active AI user.
Sure, yeah.
So learning the tech side was also a little bit of a challenge, and so we've relied heavily on our member companies, our advisory board, to really write the policy and talk about the technology. Yeah. And then I can focus on taking those good ideas to Capitol Hill.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about your background then. How'd you get involved in politics? Part of your family, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
So my granddad was in Congress for 34 years. Cool. So when I say I grew up on Capitol Hill, it's not a joke. Yeah. I literally, my earliest memories were, my granddad were going to the Capitol and walking around and being in his office. And it's funny when your granddad's in office your entire life, and when you live, his district was only an hour outside of the district, or D.C. So, we could go to the Capitol and see Poe pretty much any time. And my granddad's Frank Wolf. I forgot to mention that, Congressman Frank Wolf. I guess I kind of took it for granted, and I used to tell people, which building does your granddad have an office in? You know, what's it like when your granddad takes you to the Capitol, or going to White House, you know, barbecues and different things.
Yeah.
You know, in some sense, I just thought everybody gets to do that. And it's actually a credit to my granddad. He's a very humble guy, so he never wanted red carpets, you know, things rolled out. Staffers always appreciate this. He never, you know, cut the line for the haircuts or the dry cleaning. He had the airport parking his entire career. He never used it once because he was like, if the staff don't get a parking spot, why would I? My constituents don't. Never paid for tolls. I mean, just a very humble guy. Always went home after work. He didn't do the Capitol Hill Club bars. He wasn't a drinker, which he credits that for some of his longevity, being in 34 years. You know, people get a lot of trouble. So he was home every night for dinner. And Sundays, he used to say, he's a very strong Christian. He wouldn't take a meeting. He used to joke, if Ronald Reagan or George Bush called me on a Sunday, I would say no, because I don't do anything on Sundays. So cool. I say all that to say I never felt like my granddad was. I mean, I knew he was a special guy, but I never thought he was, you know, a king or something, or somehow we were better than anybody. It was just that was just not in our ethos at all. And so that's something I very much appreciated. But it was cool to get a front row seat to what happens in Washington, and as I've grown older, I've just really appreciated all the advice and wisdom he's given me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think like that inside access to Congress is always so interesting too. And I didn't miss leaving the Hill once I quit my job to start Connect, but I missed like being able to like have access to those buildings. There's something so special about being able to have free reign over that space. And so as a staffer, it's very cool. So I could only imagine what it is to be part of like a family member of a member.
Yeah, every time I'm in, I walk across the rotunda, I'm in the Capitol. I walked by his old office in Cannon. He had an office, I can't remember the room number now, but it's on the first floor overlooking the Capitol. Cool. And it wasn't a very good office. I mean, by the time he retired, he was second or third and longest serving. So he could have pretty much had his pick. And actually, I should caveat that. His last term, his staff finally convinced him to switch to one of the bigger offices, which now Pelosi has as her district office. But at any rate, he loved this room because it had just an amazing view, perfect view of the rotunda. The staff hated it because it was really cramped on the office side. So every time I'm just at the Capitol doing anything in politics, I can't help but think of my granddad. And he was also somebody, he wore a tie every day. He wore dress shoes every day. He never did the sneaker thing, which actually 3 knee replacements later, he probably should have. My granddad believes in shaking every hand. His hand literally has got carpal tunnel from how many people he shook. And it's because he really reveres the institution and what it stands for and what you can do, and how you should treat the building and how you should treat the office. And so, every time I'm there, I just can't help but think of him. And actually, it was funny, when he left Congress, he never lobbied. So he left, and he never, a lot of members, and I don't blame them, they lobby, they cash in, they hang out around the Congress, they're always on the floor. That wasn't my granddad. He really firmly believed when he left, and he didn't get beat, he retired, that he had served his time, and it was time for his next phase of life. And so I actually was with him, I believe the first time he went back to the Capitol. Well, I was with him a year later, and Nancy Pelosi did his retirement ceremony, but then the next time he went was about 4 years after that. He took some college friends of mine to the Capitol, and I remember I said, "Oh, Pa, what's it like being back here?" He goes, "Well, I haven't been here in almost 5 years." That's crazy. And it's not because he doesn't like the place; it's just he did his time. So
these days, you hear people like Justin Amash like hanging out on the House floor, like, "Hey, like lobbying to be Speaker." Yeah. So it's cool that he was able to have that like separation and not feel like he left anything like on the table. Did you ever have that moment? Maybe it's different because it was your grandfather and not your parents, but did you ever have that moment of like wanting to run away from politics because it's what the family did? You know what's
so funny is no, but I think some of his kids did. I mean, I think it would be indifferent. Like my mom, for instance, his oldest daughter, tells stories about, being in high school and actually in their district. At one point, he had Arlington, he had Fairfax.
Nice. That's like the best district to have, right?
I mean,
easy access
right here. But the problem with that is it's very political. Yeah. So the teachers, the kids in the classroom, things that my granddad did would directly affect, tons of federal workers. Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure with that, and you're so close to the Capitol, everyone knows you. At that time, most members of Congress would move to the area and keep their kids in the schools in Virginia and D.C. So my mother's graduating class, my granddad did the commencement ceremony. He had almost 43 members of Congress kids in the audience. And so my granddad gave the commencement, and all these senators and House members like, oh, I heard you speak. I was there for my daughter's graduation. So I think that level of intensity, if I'd been his son, I think it would have been a little different.
Yeah,
but being his grandson, I guess in some sense, I got all the best parts. I got the events, the parades, but I also have it in my. I think all the grandkids probably the most interested in politics. So I can't get enough of it. So I love it. Anything if he called me today and was like, let's go to a GOP meeting in Southern Fauquier County for whatever reason, I'd be like, sure, let's do it. It sounds like great fun.
Very cool. So you have a farm too. Tell us about that experience. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I actually, all through high school, I had started a landscape company, which was really, it started off as sort of the traditional, every kid starts a landscape company or mows the neighbor's lawn. Difference between me and a lot of folks is I enjoyed it. I love cutting grass, and we grew very fast, all the way up to the point when I finally was done. When I was 23, we had about 25 full-time employees. We were mowing about 300 lawns in Loudoun County. A lot of them are very big farms, a lot of estates. And so when I had the landscape company, I needed somewhere to park everything. And the best place to park is in a barn. But my parents didn't have a barn. So I bought the farm down the street from their house and got it from an older lady who I still call Aunt Kathy. She was a little crazy, very crazy, actually. She did me a big favor, selling to me at the price she did. Just very grateful.
Very cool, man. So you definitely have an entrepreneurial bug inside of you. You've had a few different ventures. Now you're doing this. Also ran for Congress. So tell us a little bit about your history from that perspective, like trying to start new things.
Yeah, I love to be my own boss. Still love being my own boss, setting your own schedule. I mean, it comes with challenges in the sense of responsibility, payroll, HR issues. It has its downsides too. You're working every day. There's no days off, and the buck stops with you. But I love creating things. Unfortunately, I'm not very scared of risk. Sometimes I wish I was probably more risk averse. Yeah. I don't mind gambling, and so anyway, the landscape company, just saw very great growth. We had great clients. It was a pretty simple formula. People don't believe me when I tell them this, but the entire time I had a landscape company, we didn't do any contracts, legal. We never sued anybody, never got sued, never really had a customer complaint. I didn't even usually take deposits on big jobs. Very handshake. Sometimes it bit me, but my theory was always if you do really good work and you show up and you're honest and take care of your clients, take care of your employees, it'll all work itself out. And that just ended up being very much so the case. The deli that I purchased in 2020, which is a terrible time to purchase a restaurant.
What month of the year did you buy it?
So I closed on it February 1st, 2020. So, I mean, literally, and I can actually remember, I was working for Congressman Hill at the time as an intern. And so I can remember reading things because we do the daily clips for the office. And I've just bought this deli. I still have my landscape company. I remember reading all these things about this virus, thinking, but you never would have seen where it went.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I bought the deli. It was my next door neighbor's dad's place growing up. So it had been in their family for 45 years. He had sold it to a Korean gentleman in 2005 who ran it pretty well, but it kind of gotten away from its Italian roots. They were selling Gaboli. Was it Caboli or what's the Bogoli? They were selling Bogoli. It was like, we're an Italian sub shop. Why are we selling Bogoli? Yeah. So I bought it. I lowballed the heck out of it. I wasn't really trying to be in the restaurant business, but my friend whose dad had started it was like, I want to buy it. Will you be the investor? I'll run it. So, sure, why not? Got it for a really great deal. At a price at actually which you almost couldn't fail. It was so cheap and had a really great base, 45-year history, great story, son coming back. So the first month before COVID really ramped up in March, we were killing it. I felt like a genius. I felt like Warren Buffett. I bought this thing for nothing. It was making great cash flow. My entire family, who all thought this is a bad idea, this is great.
Yeah, they're eating it.
And then the pandemic hit. And actually, my first real appreciation for associations was the National Restaurant Association. Sean Kennedy, who would put out daily, I don't even know how I got on his email list, but this is what's going on. These are regulations. These are the things you can do, the PPP, everything else. And that was the first time I really personally felt the effect of government on small business.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, it's just like, it's almost unfathomable. We were told, don't fire any employees if you want to get aid. Okay, so I'm just coming out of my pocket cash to pay all my employees. You can't open. We're a deli that's mostly a lunch rush, so all the offices are closed.
Yeah.
I can't lay anybody off, and I'm going to hope aid comes at some point. So literally every day, my bank account and my life was dictated by the government.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Very
and it was
hard.
like, I mean, the week-to-week difference in regulation was dramatic at times, and so it's hard.
Right. It was 7 days slow spread, 10 days, 14. And again, policy
We had no
aside,
idea. It's
right. You can't. In hindsight, the deli would still be open today if they had said everything's going to shut down for 6 months, and I had just closed up the doors, given everybody a little severance, let them go, and then brought everyone back in 6 months. We would still be in operation. The problem is I bled a couple $100,000 trying to keep this ship alive.
Jeez.
And it just didn't. So good lesson in small business.
Yeah,
and
what'd you learn from that?
Oh, gosh.
It's got to be failure. You have to find things to learn in failure, right? Or else it'll drive you crazy.
Yes, the restaurant industry is very tough. I would never do it again. I always joke, the only time I'll own a restaurant is if I hit the lottery, I'm worth $1 billion. Maybe I'd buy a steakhouse and put my name on it because I raise cattle, and that might be fun. But barring that, you could not. There's nothing I could do to be in a restaurant.
It's just like, I love to cook. I'm Italian. It's in my blood. And so I think that same thing, like, well, when I sell the business one day, I'll open a restaurant. And then my wife and I were rewatching like Kitchen Nightmares recently, and I was like, oh, like, I can't do this. Like, there's no way. It's just, it's such a mess. The people that are able to do it and be successful, like, God bless them.
Right.
I don't know if it would be me.
Well, it's funny. I had my Kitchen Nightmares moment after I bought it. The deal I signed with the guy is he was going to run it for 2 more weeks as my colleague transitioned in. And again, I'm a landscape guy, had a small engine repair shop. So I had businesses, but never done anything with food. So the first thing is I get my food preparer's license, which is a long process, another government regulation.
Interesting.
And I go into our freezer. It's full. And I know we're not doing this kind of business. So I start checking the labels, Gordon Ramsay style, old food. Now they weren't servicing it. But everything this guy did, this gentleman who I bought it from, was wrong. I mean, he had different, he was advertising expensive meat, and he had, like Walmart version. It was terrible. So we just had, literally about the second day after his wife tried to teach me how to make bulgogi because the one customer likes it so much, I was like, you know what? I think you could leave now. we're going to take it from here. Jeez. And we kicked him out. We cleaned the restaurant, threw out all the food, started over. Things got a little better, but it was a little bit of a kitchen nightmares moment. I felt like throwing things.
Yeah, just like Gordon Ramsay with his hand in like raw chicken. Like, what is this?
Yes. You're cooking in a burnt pan. Yeah. Give me that. Yeah, I told him to give me that apron.
Would have been an episode where they shut it down.
Oh, if they had seen that freezer, I was like, oh yeah, no, terrible. But we got it clean. We spent, and I'm a big believer in you got to help. So I went in there, scrubbed the floors, and it was a good team bonding moment.
For sure.
And it was good. We're starting fresh. We should, clean the place.
Yeah.
And so, it was fun.
Nice. What part of town was it in?
This is in Reston. So it's
gotcha.
a block up from Reston Town Center.
Okay.
Deli. So people probably remember it. If
Cool.
there's some old heads, as the Gen Zs would say. If there's old heads listening, they probably remember it. But
there you go. So you raise cattle now on your farm?
I do. Yeah, it's a hobby. Actually, it's funny. I visited the Reagan Ranch this summer.
Nice.
And Reagan had 6 cows because that's what you needed to do to get the tax benefit.
Gotcha.
And ironically, I have 6
There
now. The tax benefit I would get either way because I'm in conservation. However, I just think it's funny. It's a hobby. I like to raise them, and I like the fresh beef. I like to go see the cows. One day, if everything works out well, I'd love to have couple hundred acres somewhere and make hay and do it for real.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's just a fun hobby.
There you go, man. That's my dream. Sell the business, move out to Colorado, get like a high plains cattle ranch, and go skiing and raise cattle.
Yeah, the ranch thing and the culture, the community. So I did 4-H growing up. I showed goats and sheep and chickens, and actually my first business was chickens. I had like 300 laying Rhode Island red hens.
There you go.
It was insanity, and it taught me my first business lesson. You have production and sales. Okay. I was really good at producing eggs. I was really bad at selling them. I'll never forget.
Sounds like me.
yeah. It's like a lot of people are like that. I can produce the thing, but you gotta have someone buy it. Our kitchen table. One day I walked in, my mom was so mad. I think we had like 600 eggs in all. She was, you got to sell the eggs. You're not making any money. And so I was giving eggs away. If a neighbor walked by, hey, eggs, Yeah. So again, you got to have sales. And farming, that's one of the cool things about farming. You put in the input, you put in the time, you get the product, you sell the product. It's a beautiful business.
Yeah.
A lot of other things in life, you never get to see that full cycle. And I think that's what I love about it the most.
Yeah, I've always been so attracted to just like the access to nature and like experiencing life how it's been for thousands of years too, which I think is just so fascinating.
Yeah, and you get to see, circle of life, things die. I think it's also, Lord willing, if I have children one day, I think it's important for kids to grow up around farms. Actually, when I did 4-H, all of my...
What is 4-H?
4-H is it's like an agricultural program. It's all over the country. It's kind of like FFA, Future Farmers of America. You show animals at the fair. You win prizes for having the best goat or best sheep, and then you sell them. And they make you run it like a business. It's a really good educational program that most states have. They actually do a 4-H day on the Hill, and they all come into D.C. At any rate, all of the farm kids, they just worked harder. They weren't afraid of early mornings.
Yeah.
They aren't afraid of gross. Sometimes farming is gross.
Yeah.
So all of my initial employees at my landscape company were all farm kids that could just work circles around anybody else, fix anything, drive anything, And it was actually hilarious. We were right here in the suburbs of Northern Virginia. So sometimes moms would come and be like, I really want my son to work for your company and learn hard work. I'll pay his salary. I'll pay his hourly rate. Just hire him. So for a couple of my better clients, I did this. These kids didn't know what. I mean, my guys, it was bad for morale. It was bad for everything.
Yeah.
And
you
actually,
want people to hold up their own.
Exactly. Yeah. Farm kids just aren't afraid of it. So I think farming is an important part of society and important for kids.
Nice, man. So where did this entrepreneurial bug come from?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's funny. My granddad, who was in Congress, he always laughs. He's not a businessman at all. So it definitely didn't come from him. My father was an economist, so he would grow up teaching us about sales and how the economy works. I fell in love with producing. I like working. I like being active. I never played video games my entire life. I played sports, but I loved buying things. I like negotiation. I remember, I think the first time I saw a backhoe when I was like 9 or 10 years old, my neighbor had, and he was driving this backhoe and he was shoveling dirt. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And the egg thing was I wanted to buy a backhoe at 10 years old. And I did end up buying one at like 17. So I got there. But, it was like, okay, you want to buy a backhoe? My parents were like, well, go make money. Yeah. So I tried the eggs. Eggs didn't work. Okay, go mow grass. And I go mow grass. And I was like, I love mowing grass. And I would just mow grass all day long. And I was homeschooled. And so I would get my schoolwork done really early in the morning.
Nice.
And then I would go mow all this grass. Everybody would pay me in cash. And it was so funny. Actually, another funny government story. These guys all thought I was a drug dealer at the Wells Fargo. Because here's this kid. He's like 14 years old. Wads of cash at like Tuesday morning on 11 a.m. on a school day. They'd be like, who is this kid? So they flagged me. So I get flagged and audited by IRS at like 16. I didn't even know. My parents, they knew I was working hard. They didn't know how hard. So I got like a $100,000 tax bill at like 16 years old. And I'd never forget, my dad walks in the room. What the heck is going? Well, what are you doing, right? He thought I was making a few $1,000, whatever. You're working hard. I was out there hustling, right? So had to fight my first tax bill at 16.
There you go.
Got a forgiveness and payment program. Yeah, won't do that again. So yeah, I just liked working. I think that's what it really boils down to.
Man, good for you. All right, so you run for Congress. When did this happen?
After I sold the landscape company, there was a redistricting in Virginia, which of course is now a big deal now. Going to redistrict again. But we did a bipartisan redistricting commission, and they drew a new 10th district seat, which was much more competitive than the old one.
And where's that at?
This would have been Loudoun County, Fauquier County, Prince William County, a little bit of Fairfax County.
Gotcha.
Page County, no, not Page County, Rappahannock County. And it was definitely still, a little bit more of a blue seat. But my granddad had represented all of that district at some point or another. And, again, you grow up with your granddad. He's got it in his blood. I got it in my blood. I mean, in some sense, he'd been running me for Congress for a long time.
Politics.
Yeah, he was like, Caleb's going to be in Congress. And so it's actually so funny. I remember the day the Washington Post dropped the story, like, here's the final districts, because he reads the Washington Post religiously every morning. I mean, he just called me right away. He's kind of laughing, hey, you see this? And I was like, I see it. He's like, well, And my granddad always says, I know men in ranks who are going to stay in ranks. Why? I'll tell you why. Simply because they lack the ability to get things done. And so he was like, are you going to be a men in ranks? And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to do this. So I sold the company. And actually, I'm a very strong Christian. I prayed about it. As I have to sell this company, have to be in the right moment. And I made one phone call to a friend of mine who had a bigger landscape company and just kind of floated it. I said, hey, would you want to buy my company? He's like, yeah, I'd love to buy it. It's like, would you like to buy it? This is in November. Would you like to buy it before the end of the year? Sure, let's do it. So he sells it, really great price. And so I just launched full. My granddad is a big believer. This is actually good advice for anybody running for office. You can't do two things at once. It's a full-time job. You've got to be, especially Congress, especially in a district like that. So I put all the chips on the table, announced. At the time I was 24, so I would have been 25 by the time I swore in, so legal age. My granddad helped a lot. Actually, I got to know my granddad a lot better through that process. The conversations you have,
For sure.
it opened up things and stories and advice and life lessons I never would have probably experienced.
Yeah.
Had great fun and got absolutely obliterated.
What'd you learn about like the campaign process while you did it?
So I always give the caveat, party politics, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, party politics are not normal in any sense of the word.
Yeah, for sure.
They're, I say party politics, I'm talking about the local GOP committees, the Democrat committees, all of that activist infighting, if you will, that gets you to the primary, that gets you to the general election. And so the biggest problem my election was, it was a little bit of a short turnaround because of the redistricting.
Yeah.
We had 12 people that announced for the seat because obviously it's a great seat. It's like much more red than it was before. And so it was just this jockey for the primary voters. I mean, we would go to events, 30 people in the room and all 12 candidates there. I mean, it was like a bloodbath everywhere you went. On top of that, the party was trying to decide, do we want to do an open primary? Do we want to do a convention? Do we want to do a firehouse primary? So the final thing they ultimately decided on, which, by the way, I always say this, was 2 months before the election. So I launched in January.
Jeez, that's crazy.
All of January and February, I'm running for an election that I don't know the date of, the style, the location, the anything. So imagine I'd meet you on the side of the road.
It's like, hey, vote for me sometime.
Vote for me sometime. No, literally. It's like, how do you run?
Yeah.
And so they finally pick a firehouse primary, which if you don't know, they pick 10 locations across the district. They do it on a Saturday, 9 to 4. So it's not normal hours, not your local precinct. And you have to sign a party affiliation certificate and pledge to vote for the nominee. And you have to pre-register.
Jeez.
So I meet you at a Safeway. Hey, will you vote for me? Yeah, you're a good guy. What are you stand for? Okay, get out your notepad. It's on this Saturday. At my polling location? No. The firehouse. Or that's our thing. They call it firehouse primary. So everyone was going to their firehouse. It was at school.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a cluster. So actually the last week of the election, I hired a call center in Ohio, 40 people So just answer the phone all week and educate people how to vote. Because how else are you supposed to do it? And you also got to remember, primary voters, they're older. They don't do emails, they don't do text. And they get frustrated. So they go to their local. I had so many people. I posted people at the different normal polling locations because there'd be these older folks. I'm coming out to vote for old Frank Wolf's grandson. Oh, it's not here. What? And then they get there. I got to sign. Oh, it's crazy. So it was a disaster.
Well, I'm sure you learned some lessons there. Will you do it again someday?
I will. Not in a firehouse primary. I'm a very firm believer that elections should just be held at the precincts run by the state.
Very rude.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. But, yes, I will run again one day for sure. It's in my blood. It's something that I feel called to do. It has to be the right time, right district. I think it's important that folks around you want you to run, that you have a really good base of people. It can't be an ego thing. I think in hindsight, when I ran, I was 24. I was unmarried, no kids. So again, going back to the archetype of a primary voter, it's like, you young whippersnapper, you don't know what you're doing.
Don't know.
And on top of that, I had it's nepotism. His granddad was in Congress. Now, my granddad has a great reputation, and people love him. And so this is the common thread I would get. Is people would shake my hand, they'd look me in the eye and say, you are the future of the Republican Party, and I can't wait to vote for you. I'm thinking, oh, great. In 10 years. I mean, I would get that all the time. And I'm just like, if you believe in me, vote for me now.
Yeah.
And I'll be able, and I always tell them, I'm going to be in for a long time. I'll be able to get things done. No.
Yeah. I get it. I think, the more you experience life, the more wisdom you have to help run a country and run the policy behind it. But, we want to have younger people in these positions because we want to be thinking about the future of the party and not people who are very close to a retirement home or should be in one already.
Right.
So,
well, especially going back to AI, most of the companies that are joining at the startup level, they're all young people. I mean, I talked to a guy yesterday morning from Wisconsin who's got 15-person AI startup company. Actually, you guys are a great example because you guys use AI and technology, and you're all young. They're mostly young Gen Z that are building this new artificial intelligence products. And, to no fault of the older folks in Congress or anywhere, governors, state houses, these sorts of technologies you only learn by using them, and typically using them at a young age.
Yeah.
And so, I think I don't know if it was you guys or someone did a poll. I think only 20% of Hill offices are actively using artificial intelligence, mostly because their bosses are not using it. And it's actually a common thread among all businesses and enterprise. The way the boss uses artificial intelligence is very telling to see how the rest of the enterprise will feel comfortable using it.
For sure.
So if all these bosses aren't using it, then the staff aren't using it, and then they're going to try to write policy about it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think we could all. The Hill is not a place that adopts technology quickly.
No.
And so how have you seen that when it comes to lobbying on these type of things?
Well, what I think is so funny is, think about when I was an intern for Congressman Hill, which I did, for course credits, and I had the weirdest internship of all time. I was unpaid. I only worked 2 days a week because I was still running both my companies. The chief of staff is a good friend of mine. I was doing typical intern work plus a little bit of policy stuff. Great experience. Loved it. Loved every second of it. What's so funny is 90% of the job, though, is guy calls from the district. How does the congressman feel about X? And then I go, hold on, I'll find it, right? We'll send you a letter. I go research it. I find where he's made a statement about it, regurgitate into an answer, send it back to constituent after the boss approves. An AI LLM can do that like this.
For sure.
Think about, or like a VA. Someone calls from a VA. I didn't get my Purple Heart, or I didn't get my whatever, benefit. And I got to sit there and spend 4, 5, 6 hours trying to figure out VA code, write a letter to the right person at the right time. An LLM could do that in an instant, and the veteran gets the care right away. So I just always think it's so shocking. AI lends itself so well to Capitol Hill in so many ways. why aren't we using it more?
Yeah, especially as a communications staffer, like my use of chat or like Gemini now, if I had that when I worked on the Hill, I could have done so much more or had a better quality of product too, because when you're messaging or like when you have a boss that gets scheduled for a TV hit, it's a couple hours away and they just finally sent topics, you're having to like scramble through all these articles and trying to figure out like quips and like the most important things from this. Like if I had chat to do that, it would be so much easier.
Yeah, no, and I'll give the caveat. When I say offices aren't using it, I'd be surprised if 90% of staffers aren't using it on their personal laptop, their cell phone. The whole enterprise isn't building an AI plan for the office. Some of them, actually, some offices have, and I've been very impressed by the ones that have. And they say, this is our policy, this is what we're going to do, this is how you can and can't use it, this is how we're going to set up agents, this is how we're going to set up our database. So what's happening is a lot of staffers just using it on their cell phone or their laptop to answer questions here and there, which, again, makes you more efficient. It helps. But it's not supercharging the office. I mean, one of the biggest issues, my granddad used to experience this when he had his office. You know, you only have, what was it, 15 staff total, I think?
And yeah, in DC, probably like 8 to 10.
Yeah, 8 to 10, so 15 total with district.
Yeah.
And you've got, 700-something thousand constituents. Everyone wants to meet. Everyone wants to call. Everyone's got an issue. Everyone needs it yesterday. If these offices could be supercharged into the activity of 100, 200 people, that's great for the American people.
Yeah, absolutely. You have such a broad range of clients, but like, what do you see as the things that they're consistently caring about as far as policy goes?
Well, we're very in favor of this latest federal preemption bill. 50 different state patchwork regulation for AI. If you're a big company, if you're a Meta, if you're a OpenAI, handful of other large, if you're in the Fortune 500, you've already got your legal compliance lobby all in place, and you just adapt and do what you got to do. If you're a startup company, which, again, when the internet first took off, the biggest company was AOL. Now they barely even exist, right? Yeah. Google would have been a startup. Microsoft wouldn't have been a startup then, but Amazon, certainly a startup in the early 2000s. If they would have to comply with the same regulation that all the bigs would have to do, there's a decent chance a lot of them wouldn't have gotten anywhere near where they did or grow as fast.
Yeah.
And so, and I always also give this caveat, so many people are talking about AI and workforce and all the different effects. When, one of the biggest internet arguments used to hear in the early 2000s, now again, I was 4 years old, so I can't speak from firsthand knowledge, but when I read the books and people tell me, is everyone said, well, every small business will go out of business because you're going to shop online. Amazon's going to wreck small businesses. Now, if you decided to go start David's Cupcakes and you started baking cupcakes, put them online, you could ship them anywhere in the United States overnight.
Yeah.
And now the entire United States has become your customer.
Yeah.
That would have been so unfathomable to anybody in 2002, 2001. And so I always tell folks the same sorts of benefits and societal change to the economy are coming with AI, but we don't know what they're going to look like yet. So just pause, don't destroy it at its infancy, and let's see where it ends up.
So what's your rebuttal to someone that says, I see a negative future for AI, like this isn't going to be good for society?
Well, first I'd say good. I'm glad that you're worried about what's good and bad for society, because just like anything, a pickup truck can be used for me and you to go pick up lumber at Home Depot, or for a member of the Taliban to mount a 50 cal too. So any tool can be used in a negative or bad or immoral way. And we should be concerned about how that occurs and how to prevent that. So I always say first, good. We do need to be having real honest conversations about the concerns around AI. Now on the benefit, it's here. It's not going anywhere. You're not regulating it out. If you ever meet somebody that says, oh, I don't believe in AI, I'll never use AI, ask them if they use a credit card. Ask them if they use Gmail. They go on Netflix. All of that, the algorithms and everything you're pitched, it's all AI driven and backed. Every transaction you do with a credit card, you know how much technology and cybersecurity, the miracle of somebody going across the street using a credit card and you get a text instantaneously, is this you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like unfathomable. And so AI is already here. It's all around you. The things that most people talk about are either the workforce, the weird, deep fakes and political stuff. Sometimes you hear all the weird erotic stuff. I mean, which again, all that's a concern. Obviously, the mental health, that's a big concern. But in our experience with our member companies, 90% of what they're building is stuff that you'll never read about, you'll never hear about, but will make your life infinitely better.
Yeah.
Logistics, the supply chain. Again, if anyone says, I don't use AI, did you order on Amazon this week? If you did, you use AI. So I just think, again, we're in the infancy. We have real concerns, just like the internet. I think it should be a 2-year pause. 2-year pause, put in a federal AI framework, define the terms, define data privacy. We're the only big nation on earth that doesn't have a federal data statute. It's crazy. Build the data statute. You know this. I mean, how much have you dealt with?
It's so frustrating. It's like, well, what if we have one user in California? You
Yeah,
know?
and you have to comply with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
So build the data, define the terms, build a data, pass a data law, then pass an AI law, do this in the next 2 years, and then as other concerns occur, fix them. And everyone always hates when you say, oh, because China. You got to beat China. Everyone always says, oh, yeah, everyone says that. Well, whether you like it or not, the Chinese are building and developing artificial intelligence and quantum.
At a fraction of the price that we are, too.
At a fraction. Because their power grid, because their energy. They have gone, all in doesn't even encapsulate it. They've gone meteoric. I mean, they're all in on artificial intelligence. And being a tech guy, AI gets better as it learns, right? So for it to learn, it has to be implemented. For it to be implemented, that means someone's got to go out and say, we're going to let this AI handle XYZ task.
Yeah.
So to give a more tangible example, the self-driving cars in China, they just said, go out, go for it, go. If self-driving car in China runs over Granny in Beijing, the Chinese don't go, oh, we got to stop it everywhere. They just go, sweep, 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 keep going. And they're machine learned. Now, that's a very basic, kind of stupid example. But that's what they're doing with cybersecurity, hacking. You're going to have a world in which when you link quantum and artificial intelligence, where every, I think it's 36-character password in the world could be broken seconds.
Jeez. So
the Chinese are doing this. And on the homeland here in the United States, when I talk to our founders, I'd say 20, 30, 40%, something like that, maybe about half of our founders that are building these tools, they'll demonstrate them to me, and they'll show me the American version. Oh, here's the OpenAI LLM version of it, Anthropic. And I'm always like, what's that button? Oh, that's the Chinese. And you click DeepSeek and all the others. And I'm like, what do you prefer? Well, I don't like to run the DeepSeek version, but I know in some people can't do that. So we're also seeing an environment where the Chinese tools are becoming something that American companies are migrating towards. So it is a real concern.
I think something you touched on is people are going to have bad intentions and good intentions, and I really hope there's a future of American capitalism in which most business owners or visionaries of what our economy looks like are doing that from a moral compass standpoint. Yeah. I think people are frustrated with that right now and have been for a long time. And so I guess the question I'm curious about from your perspective is, we have a government in which does not understand the things that are so important to create policy around. And then we have the private industry, which, of course, is going to try to push policy to their max benefit, right? How do you find the balance there so that we're making sure we protect towards an honest and moral future while the people that are supposed to protect it don't understand what it is?
I'm an unapologetic capitalist. And the first thing I learned when I started my first business was, if you do something that hurts every single one of your customers, it's generally not good for business. So whenever people are like, oh, AI is going to kill everybody. Well, is that really good for business as an AI company? And I know it's okay, that's a stupid example. Sure, I get all the only solution, if you believe that AI is dangerous and you believe AI is bad for society, and look, I'm not going to, everybody has a right to their opinion on this. The only solution, knowing that the Chinese and the rest of the world are building it, and knowing that, with blockchain and everything else, we're building it here, and you can't really actually stop it. The only solution would be more artificial intelligence, so you can pick the tool that most benefits yourself. I said this the other day. Elon Musk has done more for free speech with his Grok. I'm not going to say than Thomas Jefferson, because a lot of people, including my grandfather, would be very upset at that. But what he has done with Grok is going out and say, hey, these other guys are building it to answer this way, and I'm building it to answer it this way because of XYZ principle I have, and they adjust. That's the market at work. And so if you go in and you say, we're so scared of it, we're going to regulate it, and now there's only 6 companies, and they're all under the same 2 + 2 = 4 regulation, then you're going to have massive systemic risk across the board, because then you only have a few products running everything. That's a bigger risk to me.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's super important to be able to allow the small players to grow and don't overregulate there, because that's like very monopolistic in its mindset. If the big guys can afford to have their compliance and legal, and the other guys kind of suffer because of it. So I get that. I would argue that we don't always know what's good and bad for us, and social media is a perfect example of that. Is we're all stuck on it even though we know it's bad for us. And so thanks for answering those questions. I'm just super curious about all this. And
the social media is funny. I always say this. If I could snap my fingers and make social media go away, I probably would.
100%. I would choose a different career path. You know,
I think pretty much everyone. But I say this, if I could snap my fingers and make all murder go away, I would too. At the end of the day, we don't live in a perfect society. We don't live in a perfect world. One of the funniest things I think was when Grok became Hitler on Twitter for a week, when they kind of toned back whatever, and it became a little racist and everything else. And people were so stunned. They're like, I can't believe this would turn into Hitler, or say such things about Jews or whatever else. And I couldn't help but think, well, it's built by humans, and in my worldview,
it's infallible.
It's fallen already. Yeah. So of course it's going to go there. So the only answer to that would be to build ones that have beliefs that you share, and then I don't want to say let the AI fight, but let them come up with a solution. And actually, this is what's happening. A lot of people don't realize this in financial services circles and others, where they're actually, simultaneously you ask your chat box a question, and it asks all the LLMs.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then they basically take a vote. Which one do we think is the most consistent? Oh, Grok had an answer. It was not any of the others. Okay, well, we're going to vote, and and it does this all without you even realizing it. And so the more of that, the better. You're going to get more honest. But I always give the caveat: if we don't have garbage in, garbage out. If the data it's being fed and trained on is bad, then the outputs will be bad. Which is why it's so important that if the federal government's going to do anything on AI, they should start with data. All
right. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I like data privacy for sure. And we've gone 4 years without selling people's data, so I'm very happy about that. That's good. Yeah.
Well, one day, the data is ultimately going to be the most valuable thing in a company.
That's what's so hard, though, right? Is maybe that's a conversation for a different day, because I have so many thoughts there.
Yeah. Yeah, we do on our website, and give a pitch, we have model legislation for a data privacy bill that we're kind of floating around, seeing what people think. The reality is it's such a tough topic, and so many different industries and states and worldviews and otherwise get so personal about it. It's hard to build coherent. I think the average person, especially Gen Z or younger folks, most people I think have some sense or believe that the data is theirs, that they own it. And so I think anything we do should start with the idea that, almost like a data bill of rights, you own your data, you can control what you do it, and anytime you can opt out.
Yeah, I love that. Let's end it there. Okay. I think that's a great way to put it. But dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
This is great.
Thank you for tuning into Capital Spotlight Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe to our channels to stay updated on new releases, share the show with your friends, and rate the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For more from Connect, subscribe to our daily newsletters, follow us on social media, and check out our website, all at Capital Connect, capital with an O, CNCT. See you next time.